The way I think about biases is
Mm.
there is, bias that others display towards you, which can be conscious or unconscious. But I think there's also a lot of bias that you inherently develop. And I think that's where a lot of the gender norms, societal norms, and cultural norms come into picture. I don't think we should be imposing what a woman should be doing, you know, which might just seem like not the norm. A recurring thing that we keep hearing over and over again, right? That women don't take enough credit for the work that they're doing. The system has way too many people to, look at what each person has contributed. The system, there's a lot of layers between you doing the work and the system noticing you. You are literally the only person who can change the course of your career. Everybody else can support in some way or the other, but nobody, do not let anybody, shape your career. You shape your career.
You talked about going out to your mentors when you need advice, and it's very important for all of us to build a support network when they can speak for us in the rooms that we cannot be in, right? So how would you suggest that women build that support network of mentors, allies, sponsors? How do we do it?
Yeah. So this is again a pretty loaded topic. I remember giving a talk about mentorship and sponsorship. That was an hour-long talk in itself. Maybe we should do a follow-up on that topic here. But see, mentoring and sponsoring are very different aspects, right? I mean, the starting might be similar. Like you still need somebody who believes in you, who trusts in you. But mentorship is, I can give you, it can be low commitment, right? So I can just give you advice as needed, but I'm not really, putting my reputation at stake for you there.
Yeah.
Right. But sponsorship is the opposite, where I am putting my reputation on the ground for you and advocating, right, that you are the right person to do X, Y, and Z. Right. But the root of both of these is a trusted relationship between two people. Right. And that is where a lot of effort needs to go in.
Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of us, I receive probably 50 messages or 100 messages per week just asking me to be their mentors.
Yeah. And I'm sure you get a lot of that after your public speaking events as well.
Yes, right. So after every talk, after every post, that gets a little bit of attention. I get at least 50, 100 people saying, hey, can you be my mentor? But, the thing is, both of mentorship and sponsorship, I would say, they require time and effort and commitment from both parties involved, right? Yeah. So a lot of people think, I network and I ask you, then there you go, like you and I are mentors. No, I feel mentoring, the whole idea of targeted networking itself has multiple components. Like one is to first identify the person, right? To connect with them. Then you understand the person, right? Like you both need to understand your, who you are and what your goals are, how you can support each other. Then you keep nurturing that relationship.
Yeah.
And then comes the whole idea of asking or giving help, right? A lot of people skip all of these. They identify and then they ask for help. I mean, you can. If it's a low touch ask, absolutely. Like if it's, hey, can you review my resume? Sure, that's a one-time thing that you and I are doing. Of course, I can review your resume. Of course, I can, spend 30 minutes and do a mock interview for you. But that's not mentorship at all.
True.
Right? For a good mentorship, you require a lot of nurturing. You require daily touch points, right? I mean, or monthly touch points, right? You require some sort of a periodic connection where you build a history. It's like any other relationship.
Yeah.
Right. I've had, so a lot of the mentors that I have in my tribe, I like to call them my tribe, and I have quite a few of them, some at work, some focused only on, my career as a product management manager, some focused only on public speaking, some focused on music, some focused on my work life, right? And some helping me as a mom. So I have quite a few, I would say. But the common aspect with each of my mentors is relationship and the time that we have invested.
Yeah.
Some of my mentors, I've known them for 8 years.
Wow.
And we still keep talking every month. Right? Because that requires, and it's both give and take. And I am if my mentor calls me now, I will hang up this call and I will take her call and I will come back to you. Like if that's the level of commitment that we have towards each other, that, hey, if this person calls, then I'm going to pick up and I'm going to support her with whatever ask she has. Like I've stepped in for my mentor because she travels quite a bit. and she is an amazing public speaker. And if there are talks that she's not able to do, she asks me to go do. And I've never once said no to her, even when I was pregnant, because that's the level of commitment I have towards her.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that if she's giving you an opportunity, it's going to be amazing. I know that. I just have that trust in her. How can women find this support system? One, I think, is you identify the right people that you want to connect with. Don't just go and identify someone just because others say they're good or whatever. Like, figure out who it is that you need, as your support system, and then nurture the relationship. A lot of us don't nurture, and because we don't have time for it. So that's why I said in these scenarios, it's more the quality than the quantity. It doesn't matter if you have 10 people and if nobody is picking up the call when you need.
Yeah.
Right. You would rather have one person whom you can lean on and ask and get help during, stressful times. Right. So identify and then spend time just nurturing. Right. I have a whole bunch of mentees where we speak once a month, once in 6 weeks. It's a recurring thing. There's commitment. I understand every aspect of their life. Right. So, and I'm excited for a lot of, the big milestones that they're having. Right. So it becomes, a shared goal almost, if you think.
Yeah, and I think this is one aspect around which a lot of misconceptions exist. So as you said, we can do an entire episode on this, but just to keep it short, people always emphasize on finding the mentor. They feel that it's just one mentor satisfying all their needs in their career, and they forget the give part of it. They're all here to take from the mentor. And that becomes a very cumbersome responsibility. I don't think anyone is up for it.
Yeah, because you need many people, because you're very inherently you have several dimensions.
True. Everyone has
and you
that.
need different people. Exactly, right? And I mean, you can focus, and a lot of people, especially when they're much younger, I would say they do focus on a lot of taking, and that's completely okay, honestly. At least it's okay with me. But at some point, like, I do encourage them, hey, don't just think about you not being able to give anything. Like, for me, it's more that aspect, honestly, like that the person feels that they have nothing to give. Right. So I always tell them, not really, like, that, I learn a lot about XYZ from you. One of my mentees is an amazing writer, and I'm like, I learn a lot reading about the things that you write. So share with me, share the things that you write, because I'm learning things from you. Right. So it's for me, it's more about you knowing that you do have things to give.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And then nurturing the relationship, and you don't have to explicitly call it out that person is a mentor, but by that point, I think it's already understood that person is mentoring you.
Yes.
So reaching that point. Yes.
Yeah. You have graduated the relationship to the next level.
Exactly. So Vidya, what I did before this episode was give a post on LinkedIn and tell everyone that I was going to interview you. And you must have seen we got a lot of questions out of it.
Yes.
So I chose the two best questions and I thought we would present it to you today so you could answer it. So the first question is by Kalyan Prasad, and he says that we all know that there's a gender gap in tech and it exists. His question is, what can each of us do to close it in the ways that we can?
That's an excellent question. I'll keep it short because I know we are running out of time here. So the first one I think is, if you see a situation where there is a bias, call it out. Because if we need everyone to actually call out when they notice a bias and educate the other person, irrespective of whether it's conscious or unconscious.
True.
Because the more we do it, the more we are bringing about a change in behavior. Right? And secondly, representation really, really matters. It really matters. At least I've heard it so many times in my career, and I've seen it where I was the youngest one, only women in the room, and it felt very awkward because I've not seen anyone else do those things.
Yeah.
Right. So now when I go and give a talk or do this, when I come and when I hear from other brown girls saying that, hey, I never knew an Indian could actually do these things in this country, and I'm like, I'm glad now you can go do it. Right? Representation really matters. So if you're in a position where you can recruit more women, promote them to leadership positions, please do it.
Amplify a few voices. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Vidya. So the next question is a very good one, and that's by Sarah Hanks. And she says that being visible means having my ideas heard without the 2-second response of that won't work, or we have tried this X years ago. So she says that her ideas need not be adopted each time, but she should be given the space that her ideas are at least heard, and then people can have constructive debate around it. So what advice would you have for people, and especially women, who encounter these situations?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think a lot of women face that too. I mean, I've heard so many times where women are either cut off or women say something and the room dismisses it, and then the man says the same thing and they're like, "Oh, that's an excellent idea." I think I heard this last week, to be honest.
Okay.
So it's a recurring theme. But my take on this is communication is inherently hard. We all have very different backgrounds. We all have very different ways of communication, where certain cultures it's okay to be direct, certain cultures it's not okay to be direct. Like communication is hard. I don't think we all give credit to communication as much, both oral and written communication.
It is very
right?
subjective.
So I would say, there's two angles to it, right? One is just being heard, right? And secondly, what are we doing with the piece of information we just heard, right? So the first one, I would say, if you're cut off, when you are presenting an idea, give them the benefit of doubt and let's just pause them. Don't let the room move on before you close on why, you were cut off, right? So give them the benefit of doubt and then ask them more questions. Like, okay, when let's say somebody cuts you off and you're like, okay, let's talk more about that. What happened when this was tried X years ago? Tell me more. Maybe I'll learn a thing or two from it, right? And then the more you start turning, that moment into a conversation, and you as a woman sometimes have to take the lead on it, which is the uncomfortable part here.
Yeah.
Right? Because the more you start probing and asking questions, then one or two things will happen. One, you'll realize that actually, yeah, this thing was done, and you learn a whole bunch of new things. Or the other person will realize that what you're saying is actually different than what they assumed it to be. Right? But the root of both of this is you turning that moment from, you being cut out to a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's very awkward, especially for women. And especially if the woman who's proposing the idea is somebody junior and the man somebody who's cutting off is somebody senior.
I'm glad you brought it up. That happens so many times.
Correct. And it's very awkward because, you're much tenured, you have a bigger title, you're probably my skip level or whatever. And then, but, in those cases, a couple of things, will help. One, having an ally in the room. Right. And I've heard this tip from, one of the people whom I really look up to. And she always said, when you're going into a high stakes meeting, always plant an ally in the room. When you are going, let's say, to pitch a new idea, always do the background work and talk to the 2 or 3 people in the room that will be there and get their buy-in sooner. Because then what happens is, during these difficult moments, in addition to you, the other person can also help out.
Yeah.
Like when I go into a meeting and when I see that, let's say Ketaki was cut off, I'll be like, hey, but let's pause there. Let's hear what she has to say. I've had this discussion with Ketaki, and I think it's actually it has merit. Let's hear more.
Yeah.
Right. So when multiple people start amplifying, that will help the situation as well. Right. Again, like as I said, the communication is hard. Right. You have to find your allies in the room. You have to also be okay with, with getting into uncomfortable situations sometimes.
Yeah. And I think we all have different ways of dealing with these situations, right? So you also have to put yourself in those situations and do a trial and error to find your voice and your way of dealing with these.
Right. So I would say, to Sarah's point, two things. One, try to turn that moment into a conversation and ask questions, because that will lead to a good outcome. Second, if you're going into a high stakes meeting, have an ally or 2 in the room, right? And bring them on the same page as you are, so that if there are such moments in the room, you have more support.
Yeah. So you do some homework before that situation actually occurs. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That will help a lot. And I think we have to be courageous enough to do this. And that'll only happen.
And a lot of times, and this ties into the second, one of the questions that you asked before, right? Like we have a lot of confidence issues. I had a lot of confidence issues when I got started, right? Because we don't give ourselves enough credit, and we don't, we always have the self-doubt lingering, saying, "But am I really good enough?" Like if that person's saying, obviously it must be true.
Yeah.
Right? How many? Just if you're a women listening to this podcast, like just pause and ask yourself, how many times have you felt that just because somebody else said this thing was not good enough, or something that you said is not correct, you just gave up because you felt, oh, that person's saying it must be obviously true. They know more than me, that must be true. I've definitely done it many times.
Me too.
Right? I think we place more belief in others sometimes than our own selves.
Yeah.
So that
It's
has to
so
change.
easy for us to give others the control of our lives and then
Exactly.
just let them dictate
Right?
what we should feel at that moment.
Yeah. So I
That's
think there is some soul searching that we all need to do to understand. But I am good at this side of things, right? I've had enough experience in these set of things. I make good judgment in these set of things. I'm confident in the ideas I'm pitching. So irrespective of your tenure, your seniority, your experience, I think I deserve a chance to be heard.
yeah.
And once you build that feeling inside you, then you'll be okay with challenging assumptions in the room
And speaking up for yourself.
Yeah. And once you start speaking up for yourself, trust me, you'll start speaking up for others a lot more.
Yeah, it also build your confidence a lot once you can do that.
Yeah. And that's what we need more of, right?
That's a
Women
long
speaking up
journey.
for themselves and women speaking up for others in the room.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's something that we all have to be on a constant journey in, but I think we can get there. And that's where all the men and women need to come together. That's something we hope people understand through this episode. So next, Vidya, I have a rapid fire round for you.
Yes.
Just something fun before we end the episode. I think these were all the difficult questions that we had for you. Now it gets fun and easy.
Fun. Okay.
So we'll start with the rapid fire, but you have to answer in not more than 2 to 3 seconds. Okay. And one word or one sentence.
Okay.
So your favorite product?
Gosh, that's such a hard one. Apple Watch. I wear this from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Literally, Apple Watch.
Okay. Favorite subject? Maybe during masters, BTech, whatever.
I would say all-time favorite subject is music, to be honest. But HCI, human-computer interaction, was one of my favorites during my college days.
That is nice. And your favorite book?
Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus.
I have to read that book. I've heard a lot of recommendations around it.
My husband gifted that to me.
Okay. Your role model? I'm sure you have many, but if you were to name one.
My mom. Yeah. He has, my mom and dad have had the most influence in my life, honestly. Yeah. She's an amazing woman who just juggles everything like it's nothing. Till date. So, yeah, my mom.
We need that kind of confidence here.
Yeah.
Biggest myth in the tech industry, according to you? You can answer in one sentence.
Moms are incapable of being good leaders.
Nice one. So the last one is, if you could sing 2 lines, this is on popular demand. Sing 2 lines for all the women in tech out there.
Okay. Okay, which song? I'm just thinking. I'm like, okay.
Anything.
How about this? You said for women in tech, so I'm gonna sing. Did you want me to sing an English song or an Indian song? I know you have audience across the globe.
Anything works. It's your choice.
Okay, my choice. Okay, so for women in tech, you said. So let's go with this one. Like a small boat on the ocean, sending big waves into motion, like I'm a single word can make a heart open. I only got one last chance. I can make an explosion. I'm all those things I didn't say. Wrecking balls inside my brain. I will speak my life tonight. Can you hear my voice this time? This is my fight song. Take back my life, son. Prove I'm alright, song. Yeah. My power's turned on. Starting right now, I'll be strong. I'll play my fight song. I don't really care what nobody else believes, 'cause I still got a lot of fire left in me.
Wow, amazing. What a nice choice of song to dedicate to all the women in tech. I'm sure they're going to be so happy.
It's very in line with everything that we spoke today.
I think it's in line with the theme of this episode. It can be the theme song of this episode. So I'm going to start with that when I edit.
It's definitely one of my favorite songs. I feel it really speaks, the words, it's beautifully written and beautifully
Yeah.
sung.
And I
So
know you
yeah,
make a
thank
lot of
you.
parodies with product management and tech and women in tech. I've heard a lot of those you shared.
Yeah, I wish I could do more of, to be honest. Like I have a long list of ideas. I just have to find time, I need to find time to execute them.
You'll find it. And I'm glad that you share it all on LinkedIn. That was one of the very first things for me that inspired me, that you could share all of that on LinkedIn. Because again, when it comes about what you should write on LinkedIn, there's a norm around that too. You have to be professional. You cannot
There is,
share the personal
right?
side of
I
your story. It's
know.
so
And
bad.
even when I write, I mean, God, oh my God, like I am writing more on LinkedIn just opened me up to the amount of just hate that exists in online,
I know.
social media, I would say. And it's also, yeah, like the number of people who come and just want to shut you down.
Hmm.
You know, even when I write about topics that are, that according to me are very, very important
Yeah.
discussions in the professional world, people just come and say, but this is not Facebook, or this is not TikTok, or this is not whatever. I'm like, just scroll on and just move on. Like seriously, if you have nothing interesting to contribute, just go on.
Yeah, just scroll
There are a
on.
lot of, exactly, why are you pausing and taking time to spew your hate on somebody else? Like, just seriously stop it, it's not needed. But this, I try to be kind to most people, but sometimes when I know the other person is just saying things to instigate,
Hmm.
I'm not afraid to reply back in a curt manner at all. Like I've had a lot of people ask me, how do you decide which posts you want to go and comment on, or how do you decide which people whom you want to go and like comment on if one of my posts blow up? And I watch pretty much every comment, I would say. And if I feel that other person is wantedly trying to instigate
Hmm.
and share hateful rhetoric, I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So, and I know that these things, like, there are a lot of people who are just trolls that exist, and they
Yeah. They just
derive
do it for
pleasure
the
by,
attention. True.
exactly. So I go and I shut them down. I'm like, I'm not afraid, to shut you down, because what you're doing is not okay, and we all know that. So yeah,
Yeah, and I've seen that other people support you in that as well, because everyone
yeah,
understands what their intention is.
exactly, right. So yeah, here's to a I don't know, safer online world, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm so glad that you're doing all of this and you found your voice and you're amplifying others' voices. It means so much to so many of us. And I don't know you if you know, but you impact so many of our lives in a very big way. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing, Vidya. And thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you for having me, Ketaki. Like I'm really glad, because I often think, I'm like, there's so many things that one can go spend their time on. So I often think, like, how am I spending my energy? How am I spending my time? But the one thing that is always a constant when I think about why I go and speak, why I go and write, is you know the impact it's having. And every time I hear from someone who were able to change their perspective in some way because of
Yeah.
something I said or wrote, it definitely makes my day, because that is the inspiration, that is the motivation for me, right? I really want women to I really want a world where gender becomes a non-issue,
Yeah.
and we're not yet there, and that
We have a
bothers me,
long way to go.
because I don't want my kids or your kids to be in a world where they have to face similar issues that we're facing.
Mm.
I'm not okay with that, and I feel like we have certain tools and power at our disposal to make a change, and I'm
Yeah.
so glad, so glad, that it resonated. And thank you so much for having me. You're doing a phenomenal job of running this podcast. I've heard of a few episodes that you sent me, and I absolutely love that you're building your own world of
Yeah.
how and ideas and tools to inspire others, educate others, and help them on topics that might be top of mind for them. So thank you for having me, Christy. I really enjoyed our conversation.
No problem. Thank you so much, Vidya.